Hi, my name is Madeleine Brennan. I'm from the Center for Civic Engagement, and I'm here with Binghamton mayoral candidate Joe Burns. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get started.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So first question is, why are you running for mayor? And if you are elected, what would be your top priorities for the city?
Well, first, to give you a little bit of information about myself, I was born in Binghamton. I was raised in Binghamton. Um, my children all graduated from Binghamton High School, and I'm currently on City Council. Before City Council, I had a 25-year career in the movie and television industry. I started out at the bottom of that industry, like getting people coffee and doing crowd control for movies and TV. And I worked my way up to the top tier of assistant directors in New York City and California. And the assistant director's job is very much like running a small city. You're in charge of the set. You're in charge of 5 different unions. It is my job to plan the shooting. It is my job to keep everything on budget and on schedule, and at the same time planning for what we're shooting tomorrow and what we're shooting next week, etc. So I rose to the top. I was the assistant director for Martin Scorsese, Robert Redford. I did Die Hard 3, Interview with the Vampire. I worked with Ron Howard. You can Google me, Joe Burns, assistant director, and look at my whole 25 years, okay? So at any rate, this sort of job, this sort of, being the leader on the set, when I got on City Council, I realized that it was very much like running a movie because of all the different departments that you have to think of what they're all doing at the same time. So I love Binghamton, and so it's an open seat. The mayor couldn't run again, and I just thought, Binghamton at this time, with all the divisions that I saw within the city, Democrat, Republican, and rich and poor, et cetera. And as I was on City Council, I discovered there was a lot of people that felt that they were not being heard by the current mayor, and there's been sort of forgotten neighborhoods. The students, they live downtown, or they come downtown from the university. They don't really see the forgotten neighborhoods that are a part of Binghamton. And so I want to revitalize. That's going to be my number one thing, is to revitalize neighborhoods and to see if we can't create affordable housing, not just affordable housing, but affordable houses to stop. There's a lot of landlords. There's a lot of great landlords in Binghamton, but there's a lot of out-of-town landlords that don't really care about our community. So I need code to crack down on them. What happens is they come in, they buy a property that's distressed. They don't do anything to fix it up. It just continues to be distressed. They'll put a family in there, or they'll put students in there, and people have to live in this condition. So I want to get these properties before if they go for sale. I would like the realtors to call me first, so we can find local people to buy these distressed properties. We can grant money to fix them up, and then we can sell them to first-time home buyers or young families that want to live in the neighborhood and not rent it out. And they then can start acquiring wealth in their lives that they've been unable to do. That's one of the things. That was kind of a long answer though, wasn't it?
No, that was great. Thank you. The next question I have is, what will you do in order to support and encourage small businesses to stay in Binghamton?
Okay, well, we lost a lot of small businesses in the pandemic. And we have what they call the Binghamton Loan Development Corporation, the BLDC. We did give emergency loans to small businesses to get through the pandemic, but we still lost some. We were given $46 million by the federal government for pandemic relief. All right, it was the American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden put through. So I wanted to make sure that there was a lot of federal dollars that came down to help the small businesses. And I want to keep some of this money aside to make sure that as we get through this winter, this new phase of the pandemic, the new strain, if you will, if the federal money is depleted and exhausted, that we have some money set aside to help these small businesses. We can grant them the money instead of just loan them the money. We can grant some money to small businesses to help them through the bad times. I also would like to do some startups. We can spend this money to help our neighborhoods and to help people that have never had a chance to start a small business. There's some communities that got that are larger than ours that only got $5 million. We received $46 million because of the amount of poverty that we have in our city. So what I'd like to do is set aside some money that would excuse the phone. Set aside some money, and through the BLDC, the Binghamton Loan Development Corporation, because we already have the infrastructure for loans, I would like to offer people that have the entrepreneurial spirit, but have never had the opportunity because of money to use their ideas. So we have what they call the incubator downtown, the Kaufman Incubator, and I've spoken to the manager there, the CEO of it, and he is willing to teach for free how to do a business plan. So if you want to get in on this, you then would have to go over and take this course, and this kind of shows your initiative that you want to do it. Then you can take your business plan over to the BLDC. The BLDC does have bankers on it, all right? People that actually work in banks to give loans to businesses. So that if the business loan passes the mustard, we'd be able to actually give enough money to start up your business, $40,000 or $50,000 grant. And if we can do 20 or 30 of them, and only 15 of them would work out, then we've created jobs. We're helping people that have never had the chance before to start creating wealth in their lives. And it hasn't cost the local taxpayers any money because we're using the American Relief Fund.
That's great, thank you. How would you address the law enforcement reform process following the police reform and reinvention plan submitted last spring and community protests calling for more changes?
Well, I was on the police collaborative, and it's there's so many layers to this onion, if you will. After George Floyd, it's been, I know police officers personally in the city of Binghamton that are very wonderful people. They work very hard, and their lives became more difficult. On the other hand, there's people in the community that feel that the police don't treat them correctly. And so I was on this collaborative where we're listening to both sides, and it was quite eye-opening for me, even watching the whole thing develop on television, et cetera. So one thing that we did, people are talking to me for years about diversifying the Binghamton Police Department on the collaborative, and then on city council, I voted yes to pass it, that we have now, it was a retired officer, retired Black officer, who's now sole purpose in life, and this added to the budget. We didn't take any money away from the budget in this process. This added to the budget, but he now is going to find people of color to take our exam and to join our police force. He'll go to universities, he'll go to the high schools, et cetera. And it's people across the country are having trouble, people joining their police force. That said, as mayor, I'm going to be the one to interview new police officers, and I will interview them and make sure that they're, I'm more interested in what they've done for their community and how they feel about helping the community. They hire a lot of veterans from the Iraq War and overseas, and veterans need a break, but at the same time, I want to make sure that people are in the right frame of mind to be a police officer. So I intend to make sure that goes through. Also, the police collaborative that I was on, I have said as mayor, I'm going to continue this process. And the people that were on with me, that represented, pastors, several pastors, 2 pastors that represented a large segment of the Black community in Binghamton. And we had Mrs. Johnson, who was the president of the NAACP, the local chapter. She was on it with me. And I spoke to them often, and I'm still in touch with them often. And as mayor, I will stay in touch with them.
Awesome, thank you. Would you look to create more affordable housing in Binghamton? And if so, how would you go about doing that?
Okay, so right now, there's people that build affordable housing in Binghamton. There's the churches have just there's a couple of church organizations that refurbish buildings for affordable housing, and we help them with their financing through our HUD grants. And there's what we call the First Ward Action Council is very much involved in taking existing housing, fixing it up the way that I talked about earlier, but they do it a different way, where they actually remain. They've done blocks and blocks of the city of Binghamton and created affordable housing within that. What is different with what I'm trying to do is that it is a nonprofit. And so all the nonprofits that are building affordable housing, we actually start losing the tax income that we would be getting, because they're paying like half the taxes that they would pay if we kept it in private hands. So what I'm trying to do, what I was talking about earlier, is to get houses. Some of them go up for auction. When they go up for auction because of no payment on taxes, and generally it's because they're distressed, that we give the county back the money for the taxes, fix them up, and then sell them to the first-time home buyer or young family. And they have to qualify for it. We're not going to sell it to rich people, and they have to agree to live there for 5 or 6 years. But we also need to partner with, like, we have a building over on 50 Front Street. It's called 50 Front Street. And on the site before they built that, it was an old hotel called the Sheraton Inn, and it had become abandoned, and it was just a big eyesore. So it was built for higher income people, but they couldn't have built it without a $5 million grant that they received to clear the land and to get it ready. So we need to find a way to work with builders in the same way and grant them. We don't want to be in the business of building it ourselves or owning it, but we can partner with people, again, using some of this $46 million, partner with builders, grant them money, get things ready to go, and see if we can build some affordable housing. But it's very difficult. I mean, over on the north side, they just announced an $8.1 million project where they're using old buildings and fixing them up for 27 residences. So 27 apartments, that's $300,000 per apartment. So as much as I love the fact that they're going to keep the buildings up, and I love the neighborhood, I think we need to find a way to get that kind of money from the federal government, the state government, the county, and then, you know, build things that are more equitable and more affordable instead of $300,000 per apartment.
Awesome, thank you. And then the last question we have for you is there anything else you'd like to share to help students decide who deserves their vote?
Well, in me, you'll have a mayor that listens to people. The first thing I'll do is have a town hall on each side of town to talk to the neighbors, to find out what their family's needs are, what their community, you know, each side of town actually has a different community. We are one Binghamton. That's what my slogan is. We are one Binghamton, but we are several different communities. So I want to hear from each community what the mayor can do for them, what I can do for their neighborhood. And I want them to know that whether or not they've been here for 6 generations, or if this is their first year in Binghamton, that I'm there for them. And there are a lot of people that feel left out and forgotten. Just going door to door, I was over in what we call the first ward, and there's a lot of distressed properties there. So I would walk up to the porch, and the family would be on the porch, and they'd be looking at me like, why is this gray-haired white guy walking up to our porch? And I could just see that there was uncomfortability there right away. And I did my best to make them comfortable and told them who I was, that I was running for mayor. But I don't want that uncomfortability. I want everybody to know that I'm there for them. And that's the kind of mayor I'm going to be.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming today. Students, please make sure to check out the other videos to see all of the other candidates, and don't forget to vote on November 2nd. If you have any questions, please come to the Center for Civic Engagement located across from the marketplace.